want to provide something a little different. I think oftentimes in relationships, women probably goes for men, but I'm gonna speak. We're speaking on women. Women trigger women. I think that it's all up to interpretation. What we want to make things mean. How we all can think of times where we think something's wrong with our man. We're like watching him, just oh, there's another sign something's up. So then when we go and ask him, hey, like, is something going on? For maybe he doesn't feel good, or maybe there's something on his mind about something completely unrelated. But if we didn't give him that time or kind of question ourselves, like, okay, if he does have an issue, he'll bring it forward and we'll talk about it. But until then, I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm not going to like, oh, he must have an issue, or start to like get anxiety over, did I do something, and it just creates a mess that doesn't need to happen. um and it depends on what the situation is, if you need to talk about it right then and there, because I think everyone's different, all situations are different. But oftentimes we will think that someone doesn't care because they're not acting the way that we think they should act. We have a manual for them. You need to act this way, otherwise I'm not happy, this means this. And it causes so much destruction in a relationship. So I would say women trigger women most often. Question your thoughts and what you're making things mean, because sometimes I swear it's like guys are like, they're not like duh, but like they just, it's really not that serious, like he isn't intentionally trying to hurt you most times. I mean, we're talking about men that we want to be with, ladies, right? Like, I don't think my husband has bad intentions. I don't think he meant to do this. So when I, then show up to the conversation in that way, I'm going to act different, and usually the conversation is going to go a bit different. So hopefully that makes sense.
All right, we're gonna go to you, Clout, and then we'll go to MissTaken.
All right. I'm surprised nobody has mentioned this, but I think women are triggered by things that um remove them from whatever world they've created in their mind. I think women are triggered by things that make them feel shame, ego, insecurity. I think women are triggered by things that put fault or responsibility in their direction. I don't. I think active listening is obviously important, but I think the reason why so many men have difficulty communicating with women, especially in the situation Paris talked about with the long text, is because that man knows that there is no way to respond or correct that whatever that woman sent him. She sent him a whole paragraph about how he's moving funny, acting funny. That man inherently knows there is no way for him to correct what she's saying or acknowledge what she's saying without having to first make her feel as though she's right. So what happens is men get put in a position where it's like, damn, the only thing she's going to respond positively to right now is being told she's right, and right now she's wrong. If I tell her she's wrong right now while I'm at work, she's going to get triggered. She's going to argue with me, and I'm going to be having this conversation all day at work. So rather than tell her she's wrong right now because she is wrong, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, right now, get through my day at work. And then by the time I get home, she's going to probably figure out she was wrong on her own. She's going to probably be like, oh, something happened. She figured something out. Oh, you was right, whatever the case is. So a lot of the times as men, you create a whole fight by simply trying to get a woman to realize where she messed up at, where she made a mistake at, where she's telling you about a situation at work and she says something rude to her coworker and you're like, but why did you say that? That's what triggers her, because by you asking her why she said that, she has to think about it, and then she realizes, holy shit, I was being a bitch. And now you've triggered her because she has to accept that she was wrong, and now there's something that is her responsibility to do about it. And women hate having new responsibilities added to their plate. If a woman's upset about an argument she had with a coworker, the last thing she wants to do is realize that, damn, I now am responsible to go apologize to that coworker. Damn, I actually messed up at work and I need to go apologize to my boss. And there's a million situations like that with women. I think we don't acknowledge that women have really big egos, especially in the modern world. And a lot of women in this modern world are extremely narcissistic. And when you're dealing with a narcissist, when you're dealing with people with narcissistic energy, they're always going to police your tone. They're always gonna police your response. They're always gonna be triggered, because being triggered is a way to get out of being responsible. Being triggered is a way to get out of the reality that you're trying to force them to see. And being triggered is a way to gaslight you into their reality. In their reality, they did nothing wrong. Don't bring me out of that reality. Don't try to bring me no facts. No, I want to be right. And so that's what happens a lot of the time. And I feel like that's something that we don't acknowledge. We like to say, oh, men are not actively listening and all that. I agree. Everybody should be an active listener. But a lot of time it has nothing to do with active listening when you're dealing with men. And I think women know this as well. I think that's why when women talk to each other, to a certain regard, they keep the conversation very light and they keep it very bubbly. And like women try to emote with each other. But if you notice, a lot of times they don't address what the other person actually said. If she said, oh, babe, oh, sweetheart, oh, yes, bitch, you know what I mean? Like, they'll emote, but they won't actually address and provide a response or feedback. Because even women know, if I give her an actual response or feedback, it's not going to go well. So.
All right, MissTaken, it's on you.
So one of the things that someone brought up was the tone and delivery. That is definitely a trigger for women. Not necessarily, I know everyone has heard that saying about it's not what you say, but how you say it. And I think what happens a lot of times is we will get caught up in the tone and delivery, because for us, that's a trigger, because that aligns with how we interpret certain things. And I think a lot of times men say it shouldn't be about my tone, just listen to the message. But it's very difficult to listen to a message when you're offended in a sense of the way you delivered the message. So if the goal is to address a specific issue, and I'm saying the way in which the delivery was felt disrespectful, is going to be very difficult for me to focus on what the issue is at hand when I feel disrespected. And I know men understand tone and delivery as well, because they relate to each other in a certain way, because they understand that if it's said in a certain way, that can lead to a physical altercation, right? So it's not that men don't understand tone and delivery. It seems to be an issue when the tone and delivery, when the woman is expressing like, I don't like the way that you said that to me, right? So I think that is something that, as women, telling men that is something that matters to women, and that should be mindful. That is part of how we say emotional intelligence. You don't speak to everybody the same exact way. Like when you're addressing a kid with a problem, a younger child, you speak in a way that they're going to be able to receive and understand it, right? But I think you need to do that with just in general with people that you deal with. It doesn't mean you got to be like, well, I'm just, no. It's just that the way in which you can still speak in authority, but it can be in a way that is not, that doesn't appear to be or seem disrespectful, but the message is clear. So I think tone and delivery is one area in which women are triggered. But women might be a little triggered by what I'm about to say. But another thing is that I think sometimes women are triggered by their own interpretation of what the man said. So even though tone and delivery might be an issue, sometimes a man can say something specifically when he's addressing something that he didn't like about what we did. The way that we way that
I'm talking about what you're saying right now. That's why they're calling you MissTaken.
the way that we interpret what he's saying can be a trigger, because we're filtering it through our own emotions, our own feelings, our own experiences. So when he says something that for us is a trigger, we're going to automatically get triggered by what he's saying. And what he's saying could be very well be true, but we're triggered by it because it was the way that we interpret, the way that we heard something. And I could definitely speak to me that sometimes I am guilty of that. But you know, he works around that and just be like, you know, wait, hold on, chill. Did you hear what I say? Because sometimes stopping in the middle of a conversation to do a understanding check is very important. Because we will get defensive, especially again, if it's an issue that he's trying to address with us about us, we will get defensive about it. And then the other thing, we had this conversation not too long ago on a She Critique where this came out, is that sometimes too, not communicating, like sometimes men will bring up an issue that they have with us and we need to be open to receive it. But I think what happens sometimes is that we have a tendency to not always address everything and may sweep it under the rug or just not say like, yeah, I'm not going to even say nothing about it. But then when he addresses an issue that may be very similar to what we had an issue with, but we never addressed it, then we get triggered because we didn't use the opportunity to address it when we had the issue. But then when he brings it up and is an issue for him, then we're like, well, you do it too. You know, like one of those. And I know that is very infantile, but sometimes that occurs. Like we missed our opportunity to address that issue. We should have said something then. But in a moment and when he's addressing us about something, that's not the moment to be bringing up, well, you do the same thing. Address that issue first and then go ahead and may on the back end, like, well, I hear what you're saying. I received that. And then you can go on to the next one. Because sometimes if we bypass that, you know, issue and then he addresses it and now we're feeling offended, like, nigga, you be doing the same stuff, you know, and that's not appropriate in that moment to be trying to address that because we missed our chance. We had the opportunity to do it. We didn't. So now, you know, you can't be doing that. So we get triggered by those kind of things as well.
Yeah, those are fighting words for real. Those fighting words.